Well, Tyler, how the hell are you, bud? It's been a long time.
Ryan, it's been some time, but it's good to see you. Thank you for having me.
Dude, I'm stoked to have you on here. You're probably one of the more diverse people in fitness I've ever worked alongside.
I appreciate that. I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
If you can give some Sparks notes to those that don't know you about kind of just a little bit of your background, and then we'll get into your full story.
Sure. Background, we'll start from 18. Started studying kinesiology in San Diego. I was playing football, and then in all seriousness, just to be transparent, we're just going to set the tone. The night that I lost my virginity was the night that I made my son at 18. Was just one of those, was like, football stopped, school stopped, and he lives out here in Northern California. So it was one of those of like, well, it's time to grow up. And like, dude, I don't even know how to change diapers, you know?
Wow.
I give
All
you
right.
that context because kinesiology was the route. It's always been a passion of mine to work with athletes. I think a lot of, athletes want to continue their journey with athletes and carry it on that way. So got into that. There was for a lack of better words, there was Bryan College. Bryan College had an accelerated degree in advanced health and fitness. Got into that as well. And then at the same time, mind you, I'm like early 20s, trying to play dad and take care of this kid. And I was like, I have to make money. Like I can't be in school all the time and not making money,
And raising a kid on top of that, dude.
Yeah.
No, it can't be the world then.
So I truly gave higher education when it came to fitness and just overall the industry a solid attempt, and it just wasn't in the cards for me. And then who I am as well is I really learned more by being hands-on. I really learned more by trial and error, and for a lack of better words, like just to be blunt, like kind of getting hit in the mouth and being like, hey, that wasn't fun. Let's learn from that and let's not recreate that.
So many trainers are that way. They need to learn kinesthetically. They can't just be, hey, don't do that thing. Like, you probably shouldn't sleep with your coworkers or maybe try to date your clients. You can tell them that so many times, but my God, do they got to learn it.
That is one of the wildest things about the industry as well that I never understood was like, this is just rampant in this industry. It's just
everywhere.
Like, yeah, crazy. So that's it. So then as that went on, really got into training, but from Bryan College started as a USA boxing coach for a boxing gym in Sacramento. They took a chance on me. It was like a career fair. They came in, they say, hey, like you have the look and you have the build, but you don't have any boxing experience. And I was like, well, I can get some, went through this whole route, which got me into my passion of actually fighting. So went through MMA, went through boxing, did it all, but again, was still geared towards human performance, was geared towards geeking out and trying to figure out ways of how to be faster or more efficient or more functional. That just was always this intrinsic lust, so to say, was just something I really just couldn't I had to be a part of it, And then but the biggest thing stopping me was ultimately my internal dialogue of like, I don't think I can be a trainer. I don't think I can be a one-on-one trainer, and I don't know if I can
It's not my
sell.
identity. I don't have the experience. I haven't walked the walk or something like that. Yeah, that imposter syndrome.
That's it, and it was tough to make the switch, especially too, from going from group classes to one-on-ones. So I bridged the gap, and this is crazy, right? Bridged the gap, went from being a USA boxing coach, working with amateur athletes and actually going to amateur fights. Ready for this? Here's the contrast. And then jumped into Orange Theory Fitness. And they were like, we've never seen anybody like you come through, but you have a way with the female demographic that you fill classes. We'll keep you. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing here, but we'll make it work.
Those middle-aged moms, man. My God, they wanted that boxer.
And I just was like on a hustle at the time. So personally, life was rough. Like I really didn't have a solid living situation. So I just had work ethic. And I was like, if I throw 110% into this, hopefully one day I'll be able just to have my normal means met. Because it was usually roommates or, and again, still, I've got this son that I'm raising. So it's usually roommates or my living situation was never concrete. And so it caused a lot of internal turmoil, but at the same time really fueled a sick hustle. And it was like, you have to do this. There is no, maybe I'm going to change paths, or, maybe I'm going to, try something else. It was like, you have to pull this off because you're somehow really good at this. You have to make this work because there's no more time for school.
Isn't that so unique, though, in fitness? It's one of the few careers I've found that no matter where you are, there's always the ability just to go work harder, and that will lead to you getting more financial success with that product. It's so unique in that regard that effort can so directly correlate to success like that.
And you're right about that, because here's the other thing too, and I'm sure, because I understand your background and where you came up from and the gyms you came from, is that you have these people who have these degrees and they're so intellectually smart and they can break things down to such a genuine scientific just methodology of things. But and I hate to say this, but there are some who are so smart that they're almost, for a lack of better words, dumb. You're like, dude, you have it. I would kill to have your expertise and I would kill to have your education, but your practical application sucks. And you're just like, how'd you miss the ball on this? Like if I had a quarter of your intelligence or a quarter of your background, I'd be a multimillionaire. But I'm out here just getting hit in the face, doing my own research, trial and error, you know what I mean? And having to figure it out that way. And so that's what's crazy about this industry is really is, right? You hear it a lot on social media, is there's the bro science and there's the actual science, right? And it doesn't matter where you fall on, but if you have the effort and you have the work ethic, you'll pull it off.
Well, it almost has to be like down the middle almost.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so interesting that the guy that wants to get hit in the face and is just fumbling about as he figures it out is almost always the guy that actually is successful. The dude with the master's degree that did the externship with the Kings peaks out at $65,000 a year, and you're like, bro, you could have got a $700 certificate and go work at 24-hour fitness. What are you doing?
That is wild to me. That is wild. And again, it really just breaks down to, when you really take it, is the human element of being a personal trainer is more so about genuine leadership and really about the internal belief. Because how many times have you had experiences where you rub elbows with fellow trainers and you're just like, you don't see what I see? Because if you could see, if Ryan could see Ryan through my eyes, you'd be like, whoa, dude, this guy has me on a pedestal. Where internally Ryan might be like, I don't have it. Or same thing. Ryan might look at Tyler and be like, dude, this dude's got it made. And internally I'm like, I'm a train wreck,
Well, I'll give you this. I think the best trainers are typically the people that on the outside have that walk, that swagger to them almost. That looks like, my God, that guy can solve for anything. He can get it done. But what makes that trainer great is not the confidence. It's the internal dialogue going, oh, God, I couldn't train someone to have a wet paper bag. I gotta work at this.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other thing too, right, is training is so personal that one of the biggest things you see now, especially with trainers, is just a lack of ability to connect and have empathy, right? Because majority of our session really isn't driving someone to reach their metabolic conditioning at peak performance. That's usually not what pays the bills, as much as we love it.
Oh, that'd be fun.
You know what I mean? If we could make a living off that, hell yeah. But the majority of our clientele comes from your working class demographic who just doesn't have the time to put into their own structure. And they're just like, look, I want a shortcut, for a lack of better words. Hold me accountable. Tell me what to do. Tell me what to eat, and I'll do it.
Yep. They want mental tasks offloaded from them. And they want you to be the person that makes their life more simple. And more often than not, I find trainers walk into people's lives and they dump some complicated program and create this complexity when it's like, this person's barely getting up in the morning on time, and you're going to have them cold plunge and foam roll for 20 minutes every morning? Get the fuck out. Not in your life.
And that is what's unique, is you're like, we're all, and same thing. Is this trainer projecting? Is this trainer ultimately trying to think that this is the best avenue for this, middle-aged client? And you're like, maybe, because at that point, that's the application they're using, and it's not that it's wrong. It's just that they're missing the mark, and they don't even see that they're missing the mark, and there's a lot of weird connections that go in with trying to peel back the layers of your client, because what might work for Ryan won't work for Tyler and vice versa. And so that trainer has to be able to truly dive into that person's life, figure out where they're at, figure out where they want to be, and then truly start to peel back the limiting beliefs, start to peel back the insecurities, and really get into their home life, which is kind of then when you start to, what you had said, why the training industry is so rampant with, infidelity, is because at the same time, like here's the nuance, is this trainer's trying to make money and pay bills, and so a good trainer's peeling back layers to figure out where's the weaknesses. And if it's a, opposite sex trainer-client relationship, well, now this person's like, man, Tyler's really interested in me. And I'm like, no, I just want you to resign because I got rent at the end of the month. And then these lines start
Hopefully
to just
Tyler
blur.
cares a little bit.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean? Yeah. That's the crazy part about this industry is you're either disconnected and your client's not getting results, or you're in the middle of the road and your client's like, I think I can do it on my own, which is best, or you're too personal and you're blending that personal professional boundary, and you're
not teaching people to be self-sufficient, people to be able to go take care of themselves past you. And that is right. That is absolutely where that boundary tends to kind of more blur towards that more unethical side that
yes,
my God, trainers sleep around with their clients. It's a thing. I'm just he's trying to like be very like PC about it. I'm like, no. Trainers be hoes.
They really are.
That's just really bad.
Okay.
More going into your story and kind of where you went. So a little bit of backstory with Tyler and I here. Tyler ran a personal training gym that pretty much specialized in training, and that's where I went to start my first iteration of my business, which eventually became this a little over four or 5 years ago. So that's where I mostly know Tyler from, and that's kind of where I want to pick up a little bit in your story, is because I know before that gym you owned another gym, but let's go a little bit of a layer back to starting your first gym. What's that look like?
I started off, and maybe people know it and maybe people don't, but I started off as an independent trainer. And the reason I went independent was because the genuine facts were is I didn't believe in certifications. I just didn't believe in going to a corporate gym and saying, here's my piece of paper, I'm a legitimate certified personal trainer. I just didn't believe in that. So I went independent with no certifications, none. Just was like, hey, look, just work with me. I'll work with you on a lighter scale as far as, affordability goes, because I don't have the credentials, but I have the expertise. So I started off at Self-Made, and a lot of people know it because it is an independent franchise that is marketed really well on social media. Started at Self-Made in Elk Grove. Once I went from Self-Made, this is what's funny, is life is coming full circle, is I was using my time at the time, I was using my son, who was 7, to make content. Right. And again, was just like on a crazy hustle, was like, I don't have any connections, but I've got my son. So was making videos of how this 7-year-old was doing tricep pull downs, how this 7-year-old was doing rows.
I like that though. It's so genuine. Like you see a trainer doing that as a dad, it's like, that guy's getting it. Looking a little funky, but he's working. And
it just snowballed from there in a positive way. So that was in April 2017, I started that. By the end of 2017, it had snowballed so fast that I now was the trainer for former Miss USA, was everywhere from in between to normal transformation clients to aspiring NPC bikini models to, I don't know how I landed Miss USA, but I did. And it just kept going and going. So now we transitioned into 2018. And I was looking into and actually started and signed a whole confidentiality agreement with Self-Made. I was going to open up a franchise.
I signed one of those.
Yeah. And you get into it and you start, and I got to be careful, but you start getting into it and you start seeing behind the scenes. And I was like, I was getting doubtful. Like, I was like, dude, I'm a successful trainer. I don't know if I'm a successful business person yet. So
tough.
It was tough. So then here's the big curveball is my mom had started seeing my success. And at the time, my mom and I had a very distant relationship. And we're just now today finally getting it back on track. But at the time, we had a very distant relationship. She was like, look, if this is your dream, it is your dream. You're super committed. We all see it. I'll sell my house and we'll open up a gym. Right. And I was like, at the time was just like, I only heard one thing. Yeah. I heard, I have a green light to make my dream come true. I know my work ethic. I'll make it work. So she sells her house. We open up the first gym together in 2018 in Roseville. And it was this, for lack of better words, small storage facility with no windows, with no ventilation, was a concrete building. And so in Northern California summers, when summer would hit triple digits, that place was an oven. Was a nasty, yeah, it was, I mean, the rubber was peeling off the floor, you know? And I'm trying to like pretend that everything's okay. The aesthetics of the gym were easy to market. The energy and the atmosphere was easy to market, but people would show up from social media and be like, this place is not what I thought it was. And so it kind of took a hit to my pride and ego. And this is where the hustle continues, but this is that double-edged sword, right? Of like, where trainers really need to be careful is because internally I was, wanting to prove that I was this successful entrepreneur because that was the hot title. That was, if you had that title for whatever reason, that was it.
Oh yeah, you're a business owner, especially back in 2018, 2019 when everyone was going out creating all these online shops for crap. And dude, it's so interesting how much we end up playing the rat race when it's like, oh, you spend your entire life not playing the rat race, and then you eventually just kind of find yourself trying to keep up with the Joneses, and you're like, I've never even met this guy. Like, why do I care about this gym owner like 2 states over that's showing his thing that I don't have? It's so unique and so dumb.
Yeah,
to be honest. We all do it.
Is. And that's the tough part is really the comparison. And like you said, and especially now with social media being so widespread, you see so many people paint this successful picture and you're just like, what's behind the scenes? Because again, your social media looks good, but is this real? And that's where I started to fall into this trap. So things are moving fast. I opened up this gym in 2018. By the end of now 2018, I'm now signing a lease to the largest gym I have, which is 8,000 square feet, has roll-up doors, has the aesthetics, has that hardcore feeling, and we're in, upper middle class Rockland. So no one at the time had seen a gym like this come through. So we were this bad boy hardcore gym and we marketed like that and it took off. So again, I am hitting these milestones so fast, so quick that it is leading to this false confidence. It's leading to this ego where it's just like, dude, I just was a struggling trainer in 2017 and now I'm pulling off my second gym in 2019 and things are just bam, 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 bam. And I'm almost invincible. Like internally, I'm like, watch this, watch this.
Making nothing but net time after time after time. Of course I'm going to start shooting with one hand, or I'm going to start looking over at the cheerleaders while I'm making attempts here. I gotcha.
And this is where things really got tricky, is because genuinely as the gym was growing so fast, and unfortunately the level at the gym that was scaling, I was having a hard time as a leader and a business owner matching its growth. So I mean, this learning curve is taking off and I'm struggling to even hit it because there's so much going into it. And the real thing is I was struggling to give up my identity as a trainer. I still wanted to be known as Tyler the Badass Personal Trainer. But now it's like, well, you have to pick, right? And this is where trainers really run into this. Are you Ryan, the badass trainer? Or are you Ryan, now the sophisticated business owner who now takes a step back from the spotlight because now his business is his trainers? And there was this hard internal battle of wanting to watch you all succeed. But then this internal battle of like, well, now I'm in the dark and I feel forgotten. In these last 2 years, it's all been Tyler. So that opens up. Now, I got one more milestone for you and we'll get into your question.
What you got?
2019, that takes off the second gym, right? And this is right. I was saying everything's going good. And now I start swinging for the fences. And this is where I get cocky. Is then I open up my cryotherapy center 2020. And that is the iconic year that everything took place with the pandemic, right?
That was a fun year.
That was a wild year.
I still remember sliding into your DMs going, "Hey Tyler, I know you got that gym open. You got a day pass? Come on."
It was crazy, man. It was crazy. So when it took place like that, that's then when my life really transformed. And I mean it now, looking back on it. I remember when the pandemic first hit and I had the gym and we were getting hit with fines from OSHA and we were having to argue. I've got roll-up doors. We finally had to wrap the windows so no one can see in, but you can see out. Like, it got real, for lack of better words. It was like a speakeasy gym. If someone would DM us like, "Hey, is your gym open?" We'd be like, "Who do you know?" Or we would go through their friends list. Is there anyone that we know that's mutual? And if there was, it would be like, I'm not saying we're open, but if you drive by and we're there, knock. It was just so...
Wink, wink.
Yeah, it was just a crazy time. And so same thing. We were one of the only rebellious gyms that stayed open. We adhered to protocols. We left the doors open, had the fresh air flowing. But as that took place, we then again hit another huge explosion of growth. And again, this now ties back into, dude, I'm killing it, I'm killing it, I'm killing it, I'm unstoppable. Look at all these consecutive years of just linear success, which is unreal in business.
Oh, and to overcome 2020 and to fall out of that into a landmark year where you're growing again, dude, that's unheard of, especially in fitness of all things.
So I then 2020 opened up that cryotherapy center because, like I said, I was starting to take on all this. I was just a continuous, linear, successful track, and I was like, let me swing for the fences. And it landed. So I had a really good friend that had a very big exit from a local company. I trained him boxing, right? This is what's crazy. Was his boxing trainer. He helps me out. He gives me a large 6-figure loan, pays for everything outright, and then it was like a Shark Tank deal. We negotiated X amount of equity, this and that, who split what, where it was going. Everything went good. And then, like I said, that cryotherapy center opened January 2020. Everything took place March 2020. And this is where the downfall really hit. And so I'm like, I've got this. I'm killing it. March 2020 hits, the world shuts down, there's curfews, people don't know what's going on, toilet paper is out of stock, like the world is freaking out, we're losing it, and I'm like, I can't get people to come in this place right now, and here's where things really started going crazy, is people then were like, how dare you open your gym? How dare you try to make money? And how dare you potentially infect people because you're making them come out of their house? We were catching some serious hate. And all of us as a family were like, I can't afford to shut down. I'm a private business with zero funding, have to make this work.
Or do you shut down and let your family go hungry? Or do you do this socially responsible thing? And great, I shut down, but well, now I'm homeless. It's real great from this moral high ground that I'm now standing on.
Yeah. And the other thing to that piece of the picture too that's really important about that is that I had, in all seriousness, bought a 7-figure home. Like, legit bought a 7-figure home in a country club because I was chasing that external materialistic, I made it, look at me. And again, everything just lined up the way it was, and I just was like, damn, I don't know if I can swing this. And then that pressure that started to come in internally was really a lot to handle. Again, I'm a brand new business owner who I don't want to say hit a lucky streak, but I hit a lucky streak. Right place, right time.
It's luck made via effort. That's one of those things that you can get into those flow states, or you do have those couple years that things, do just tend to work out. You make only right turns. But then something like COVID hits, or that one client blows their knee out, or your landlord doesn't renew your lease, and all of a sudden you have to move your gym. Like, all these things happen or are very real life in the training world. We just don't pay attention to them until, oh shit, a pandemic hits, or you need to find a new gym next month. It's like, oh God, it can be brutal.
And that was it. Then that's when the real test was happening. Now, mind you, the internal infrastructure of my gym was myself, my mother, and my ex, right? And it just, because we grassroots bootstrapped this thing and we're like, we'll learn together. We don't really have the money to acquire the talent that we need to take this to the next level. We'll just ride this out. We don't see this ever ending. Right? Well, you put that pressure cooker on there. You throw in the fact that all of these big decisions had just landed and no one had an answer because there was never a pandemic before like this that anyone had ever experienced, you know? So we're trying to navigate, we're trying to pivot, we're trying to stay relevant as well as compliant. And this is where fractures started happening within, you know, and this is important for trainers is because trainers' biggest problems, and I'm not trying to downplay, the trainers' biggest problems a lot of times are just, hey, can I get Susie to re-up for another package? Or, oh, Susie didn't re-up, let me try to fill this 4 p.m. spot, or let me try to fill this 4 a.m. spot. And that was, again, the same platform I was coming from wasn't really necessary as in regards to like being a business owner. It was being an independent personal trainer and lying to myself and saying, I'm a business owner. When really I'm just an independent owner operator, you know, and trying to swing some of the bills we had was just, there was times I wasn't sleeping, you know, like I was like, dude, I don't know how I'm going to do this.
Oh, and you're sitting there waiting on the difference of $1,000 being the difference from your business making it that month or not. Oh my God, the stress and what that could it sucks the life out of you, as I'm sure you know better than anyone.
It does, you know, and then it really puts the test, it really tests the bond that we had in regards to that family dynamic as well as the infrastructure of that gym, because that was it. It was a family owned and operated business, and you put that on and it was just, we just were always button heads. There was friction along the way trying to understand what no one understood.
You guys were learning to do something as you were doing it, and playing high stakes with it, and pretty much, oh yeah, now that you've done that, go home and be a married couple now. It's like,
yeah.
Oh God, that's a big ask in my humble, young, dumb opinion. But
you're not wrong, because that was the same thing is then you go home and like, there was no real, like in a normal traditional relationship, hey, tell me about your day. Well, I know about your day because I worked with you. And not only did I
talk about your day, it sucked.
Not only did I work with you, but in my head and in my perspective, you're letting me down, which is just a projection and an insecurity. But then that plays out.
Yeah, then it just keeps bleeding in, even if you know that, hey, I know I'm reflecting this on you. Well, there's still that voice in the back of the head.
Yeah.
Dude, that's tough.
So that was the tough part that people weren't seeing, but we had this golden rule that when we showed up to the gym, all drama stopped at the door. Like mom and I could be fighting, the ex and I could be having a fight, but as soon as we walked through the door, it was, hey Ryan, what's up? How's your day, man? And we really tried to nail that down, that no one knew what we were going through, because from a leadership perspective, if you see the quote unquote leader and that dude just looks rocked to the core, you're kind of going to be like, hey, what's going on?
No one wants to see the ship on fire and look up to see the captain of it, you know, freaking out, losing his fucking mind. Like, no, I want to see some stone-faced dudes like, no, just keep going.
Yeah.
The rain will put it out. Don't worry about it.
Exactly.
I love it. Okay. So, and what have you been doing since then? Because I know that was a little bit, and I just want to get kind of caught up with where you're at in life, and then we'll get into some interview questions.
Yeah. So this is what's cool as well, where the transition really took place, looking back on it retrospect, is I stopped taking my salary from the gym for the sake of trying to cut costs. So I was like, hey, how can I make money without stepping away from the gym entirely and still have time to do this? And this is what leads me into what I'm doing now, is I got into fighting Wildfire. Now, I say this just for context, right?
That's a move.
Here's you could go, well, the thing is at the time is you would go away for, 6 months and you would all but clear, 80 to 6 figures, but you were never home for those 6 months. You know what I mean? So it was like, look, I'll be home for 6 months. I'll be gone for 6 months. In those 6 months I'm home, I'll step back into the leadership position and we'll push this gym. And it made sense, right?
It's one of those on paper makes sense kind of things. And then looking back.
Yeah. Looking back, it was how do I say it? It wasn't a bad choice, but at the same time, for the sake of the business, it wasn't a good choice.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So this is then what leads me into what I'm doing now is, mind you, this is the contrast of my life at this time. As I am at this time living in a 7-figure home and I am in a country club, in all seriousness, to then it's like, hey, rookie, I don't care who or what you think you are. We're sleeping in the dirt. And I was like, I've never slept in the dirt, but I'm trying to play this off, And they're like, oh, by the way.
Tough.
Yeah,
I get it. I've worked construction before. Like, oh, yeah, my hand's fine. Turn the corner.
That is it. And it just was a genuine eye-opener that completely crushed my ego in a way that I needed. Because I was living a fantasy and I was living this lie. And I was lying to myself and believing it of like, I'm this successful entrepreneur. I'm doing this. I'm great. Hop into my first wildland crew and just got annihilated from day one. And it was 6 months of abuse. And I loved it. It was like, dude, I want to keep doing this.
Tyler's built a little different than, other people, but that's why we love him.
So I jumped into that, and what was supposed to only just be like, just for the sake of the pandemic, really turned into, I don't know if I want to be a part of this family dynamic, let alone I know the gym was my dream, but I don't know if this is really my dream anymore. Like, I don't know if that was truly an internal dream or if the dream was just to, because at the time I was hurting. I don't know if the dream was just really for the sake to gain reassurance and validation because I wasn't able to reassure and validate myself when I was going through the gym. And then you have people like, oh, you're successful, or oh, you're killing it, or oh, look at you, you're doing great. Oh, I was eating that up. I was eating it up as an insecure dude who never really did any internal work. Dude, I was loving it. It was like the biggest dopamine hit I'd ever gotten. And I was like, I'm addicted.
No, you're a success. But there's also an added pressure with that, too. Because internally, like I've been there a few different times in my career where it's like, you're doing great. And on the inside, it's like, oh, my God, the fires that are going on right now. I don't even know if I'm going to make rent this month. And you think I'm a success.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks.
And that too, like that whole imposter syndrome ate me alive to where I just almost became, I really did, was becoming so disconnected from myself and from everybody around me because I was dying inside. I was dying. And it was just, that's when fighting Wildfire really changed my life for the better, but also changed its trajectory. And I left the entire fitness industry. And now this is 2025 and I'm just now breaking into it again from ground zero as an online personal trainer.
Dude, you have no idea how happy that makes me. Like it kind of breaks my heart a little bit whenever I see someone who's good in the profession step away. Like I knew a fair bit of your backstory before you stepped away. So I was like, all right, that tracks. Yeah, he's making smart moves. I got you. But my God. Okay. All right, Tyler.
And
it's a journey, dude.
This has been a journey, and it's just been back to back. And in typical Tyler fashion, it has been 100 miles an hour, and I wouldn't have it any other way. And here we are. We are back to ground zero. We're doing podcasts again. We're talking about fitness. I'm selling my services as well as in a leadership role that allows me to not only oversee my crew, but at the same time, give back to others in a way that finally helps and feels authentic.
Fulfills your passion. You're able to do both things that in a way that might be in a completely new way than it was before, but you found a way to be able to facilitate your passions and shape your life to have them is what I'm gathering from that.
You're spot on.
Dude, love that. All right. I got some questions for you because you have had a little bit of an interesting journey in the whole fitness realm, my man. Most trainers, as I'm sure you know, they've got that dream. They want to own that gym. Now, I've owned a gym before. It was not exactly a very fun experience for me. And I've said at length my opinions on owning a gym as a trainer. So, Tyler, should trainers own gyms? Yes, no, maybe so? Tell me your tales.
I think that the trainers that should own gyms, in a lack of better words, should almost be the face of the gym, but shouldn't be the CEO or shouldn't be in a position that relies on them as far as business advice. Like, can they do the
General
branding?
manager.
Exactly. Can they do the branding? Can they do the pop-up events? Can they be the face of the gym? Like, that's Ryan's gym, I want to go there. Yeah, great. Like, you're the flagpole, but behind it, you need a solid infrastructure. majority of trainers are going to be like that. And I'm almost talking 95% are going to be like that.
100%.
Reason being is we're great at training. We're not necessarily great at business. And people are like, but I run a successful personal training business. Again, your barrier to entry and the things that you're taking place aren't on such a big scale. Again, if you're late and let's just say a client drops you, you're like, oh well, that sucks. Like, I'll pick up another one. Yeah.
It shouldn't end you. You can go find another client. But when that happens with your business, now that business's reputation has taken a hit. You get enough of those.
Exactly.
Ooh.
And that is the tough thing with trainers is we all are, to some degree, very extroverted and flirt with egotistical. And the great trainers have to. Because the great trainers think, I'm the best thing that this person's going to get, and I'm going to change their life. That's the framework, and I hate to say it, but if you bleed too much into that, that's then where you get these crazy trainers that are like, dude, you're a psychopath, you know? And we've run into them. And then you get those other trainers on the opposite side of the fence where you're like, you're so timid that this elderly person doesn't even want to work with you.
Yeah, you get a lot of those very highly educated trainers that don't necessarily have the repetitions behind them. They've got the book knowledge down, but they've not worked 4 years at some box gym, kind of taking it in the teeth. Or gone to work somewhere and gotten told no 100 times on the fitness floor. It's like, you do have to go through those things, I think, to gain that confidence. But, dude, that's spot on. Some people, you do get overconfident, and it causes you to get a degree of arrogance. Like, of course I can make this work. I'm successful business owner extraordinaire. Yeah, that's not real life for most of us.
And let's take it one step further, right? Like, I mean, someone like yourself or a lot of the trainers that were coming through the gym, we're coming from Lifetime. And so they're swinging big packages. I mean, they're swinging these high dollar amount sessions, these high dollar amount packages, and they're just in their head of like, well, I'm going to go over here, be an independent trainer, collect 100% of this, and I'm killing it. Yes, you're right, but that still doesn't mean you should necessarily run a gym. You're not there yet. And that was my fault, is we're just now starting to take off the training wheels, but the training wheels are still on once you go independent. You know, and to answer your question bluntly, 95% of trainers should not own a gym. 95% of trainers should stay trainers, and in some way, shape, or form, I don't know, maybe try a clothing line, you know, like sell a branded t-shirt, you know. If you can push that, then maybe go to the next step in supplements. But there's steps between I'm an independent personal trainer and I'm going to open up a gym. There is a vast contrast of steps that need to be completed before you jump into that.
Clothing branding, though, merch. God.
I mean, you're getting some retail, you know, you're starting to get in there in regards to like SEO, stuff like that, Google rankings. So
yeah, but I'm just thinking back to like, how many trainers do you know have gone out and gotten merch and like, oh great, my mom bought a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Get out of here, man.
That is another thing but it's a key indicator. If you can't move merchandise, how are you going to move a gym?
Clutch right there. All right, well, on to the next one with that one. So you're restarting your career right now. What advice would you give to someone that's restarting their career or returning to fitness?
What I'm currently experiencing is it's a mixture of both, is where your social media footprint really has to be captivating. And I hate to say it, Ryan, but you and I have had these conversations where, again, the person with the degree, the book smarts, the practical application, if they don't have an intriguing social media, 9 times out of 10, they're going to get skipped. They're going to get skipped over because it's not flashy, right? We live in a very flashy, very materialistic, very superficial society. Yeah. And people want to brand themselves. If Ryan's the hot trainer that's killing it and he's got the branding and he's got the videos and he's got the content, I want to align with that because in some way, shape, or form, I identify with that. And now I'm like, hey, Ryan's my trainer. And people are like, Ryan's your trainer? That's badass. And in some way, shape, or form, they're living vicariously through your success. So branding's huge at this point. Like, you really have to brand. The second thing is, when we were in it, you could really get away with being a very umbrella-like trainer of like, oh, I do general transformations. And people are like, okay, like, cool. What I am now starting to see is general umbrella trainers are struggling because they don't know who to speak to.
Ooh,
right?
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And they're trying to sell, but they're like, well, let's just say they're trying to sell this package. And you're like, well, I kind of agree with some of it, but I don't really agree with this. And this dude's just trying to make rent. Whereas he locked in and he had an age range and he had a demographic and he was able to have this client avatar that he sold to, he would crush it. He or she, right? But they don't because they're so afraid to commit to a niche that they're like, I want to go general. And so their sales and everything reflect that.
Yep. If you're a trainer that works with everyone, you'll ultimately end up working with no one.
That's
I
so good.
Firmly believe that.
And that's what's tough is, again, now this trainer has to commit to solving one problem really well. And trainers are so, trainers themselves are flashy. Trainers themselves are always go, 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 go.
Well, they're passionate individuals. It's a profession people get into because they don't want to work in a 9-to-5, office building. Yeah. They want to have freedom. There's this idea of fun and free-spiritedness that's associated with personal training. Mm-hmm. But when people start personal training, they realize, like, oh, this is still a job. I still have to have a degree of professionalism. I still have to do essentially all the other things, but I just get to do it now in a very fluid environment. But you still have to be professional and have a structure, I think, to be successful. For
Absolutely.
Sure. Okay. Now, I've got a very kind of a hard question for you here.
Send it.
So, personal training world and just in business in general, it's one of the hardest things I've seen is knowing when to say, this isn't the thing. I got to move on to the next. In your experience, how can someone identify when it's probably time to wrap it up? To just take the jacket off and just say, hey, I'm going to go up the highway a couple stops and I'll get off there and we'll sort it then. I
can only speak for myself, but we've seen these general patterns with those that we've worked with or alongside in the industry. For myself, again, you have to have that passion. And it's very parallel with an athlete. Like that athlete has to have that drive and that athlete has to have that dog to compete. That trainer has to have that drive and that trainer has to have that hunger to help and serve. And once it stops going from I want to help and serve and give someone a better quality of life to how can I make more money? Right? It gets, again, you lose that line of wanting this to be your career to how can I make the most amount of money with the least amount of work and how can I just put this thing on cruise control? That's probably the biggest sign that you're losing it, that you really need a reality check because people, again, this is a very personal connection and people feel it. People feel it. They're like, this dude's just out for money. I don't want to work with him.
Oh, and a trainer checks out, someone who's just kind of sitting there counting. A client ends up saying their shoulder hurts and goes, we'll stretch it out later. Don't worry about it. And then moves on. But one of the things I found with the trainer like that, it's not necessarily time for them to step it out, but it might be time for them just to go do something else for a little while. Like you've lost the love, the spark. Mm-hmm. Why don't you go, be a laborer or something? Go work as a bartender, as so many trainers tend to. Yeah. It can be an alternative thing. You go get a breather for a little while, and then you come back later. There's nothing that says your training career has to be just 50 years straight. You can work it a couple of years and say, I'll come back next year. That's okay.
I think you're spot on with that. I think the biggest thing is if a trainer starts to feel like they're really starting to catch that burnout and they're really starting to just go through the motions, then either one, make a pivot in who you train or how you train, or again, come back from a break. Because the biggest thing that we realize and we take for granted is that our job is fun. Like, yes, it's work, but our job is really at the most sincere level. It is fulfilling, it is impacting, and it is fun. We're changing people's lives, and people genuinely, by the trade, put us on a pedestal for helping them through some form of dark point in their life. And once people really start to lose that again, you need a pivot. Because we're here to serve. That's it.
That personal part of personal training and your ability to work in a service industry, because training is service at the end of the day. I agree with that, spot on. If you've lost that passion, it might be time to take another move. All right, Tyler, those are our questions for you today. Now I'm going to open the floor up to you. You're back in the online coaching world. Tell us about it, man. Where can we find you? What do you got going on?
You can find me on Instagram, mainly on Instagram.
Yeah, we'll throw it in the link down below. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, so Absolute Tyler, but I focus on sad dads to rad dads is the slogan, right? It's just helping dads.
Sad dad to rad dads. Hell yeah.
Is helping dads get back to their, lack of better words, their prime, right? Like helping dads feel primal, helping dads feel masculine, and making dads feel empowered. And I only say that again just from my own experience of going through life and having these, ebbs and flows with my own physique. And where when my physique wasn't spot on, I really wasn't connected with my kids. I was disconnected from life, disconnected from my son, and putting dads back into a position where they go from sad dads to rad dads impacts their kids and future generations. And that's what it's about.
Dude, I love that. And that's such a great example of niching down, too. We literally just talked about that. And that entire business model is focused in on such a specific age group, specific type of classification of people. That's a fantastic example of niching down as a business owner. Well, Tyler, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on, my man. We'll be sure to have you on another time when we do more of a roundtable. But my guy, dude, it's been good catching up. We're going to have to do some more stuff going forward.
All right, Ryan, I'd love that. Thank you for your time. This was fun.
Awesome, my man.